Hey guys, and welcome to Gwent, the Witcher card game. My name is Jaggerus, and today I want to give you guys my epic card crafting guide. So this is recommendations of epic cards I think you should craft, and I'll give you 3 from neutral pools and then at least 1 from each of the different factions. But as an aside, I want to very quickly mention the mages and then the spies. So we'll start with the mages. Now, mages are a faction card, and each faction has their own mage. So in monsters, for example, the mage is known as water hag. I don't know why they're called mages, but that's just what CDPR refers to them as. And these guys will actually be buffed, so they all have 4 strength. But the point behind this silver card is that it gives you points on the board, but it also gives you situational utility, because every mage will have a weather effect. I should not scroll my mouse wheel to try and go down here. A weather effect, a clear skies, and a spell. So in this case, the weather is torrential rain. You've got your clear skies there, and you've got lacerate on this one. And effectively, the reason these are quite powerful is because weather can be quite prevalent, and it's always useful to tech in some clear skies into your deck. But the benefit of water hag, or other mages, is that if it turns out that you don't feel like you're going to need the clear skies attached, you have alternative options. And on top of that, you're getting 4 points on the board. So you're getting a weather effect, a clear skies, and, you know, a situational spell. So what that means is that if it happens that you get to the final round and, you know, you happen to have a second clear skies in your hand, or you don't feel like you need the weather effect, you can utilize the weather effect of your own on your opponent to try and deal damage. You get points on the board from the silver card. Alternatively, you know, you can use the special card. And each special card, it seems like, has been teched such that it's kind of useful in that faction. So, for example, you know, if you're doing control in Northern Realms, you've got Alzur's Thunder. You've got Stammelford Tremblers there in Nilfgaard to provide, you know, multiple damage. Monsters, I believe, has Lacerate, so against row stacking. Scoia'tael, we have Ida and Quen, so you can protect your units. Alternatively, like I say, you've got your weather effects. And then Skellige has, I believe, Impenetrable Fog and Blood-Curdling Roar. So Blood-Curdling Roar is really nice in this deck. And these, I think, if you're, you know, focusing on one faction, making sure you get the mage nice and early is a really useful silver card to craft, because like I say, they fit into any deck. They provide utility against weather, which I think you should be teching into any deck anyway, because it's just too prevalent and too crippling otherwise. But it also provides situational benefits with the other spells and with the weather itself. So, you know, if you happen to not need the clear skies, you don't have to necessarily go for the rally. You've got other options, and I really like that. So next up, we have the spies. So the spies are actually disloyal units. These get played on the opposite side of the board. And the way these work is you play about 10 points for your opponent. It varies a little bit, but you give your opponent about 10 points and you draw a card including golds. So, like I say, each faction has one. And the main point of these is that they are card draw. So they're used to gain card advantage. If you play this on your opponent's side, you'll get a card. But you'd be like, well, you know, why do I want to give my opponent 10 points? Well, the point is that you don't necessarily need to win every single round in Gwent. So in Gwent, you only need to win 2 out of 3 rounds. So you can actually afford to give your opponent points on a round that you don't intend to win, and then gain card advantage, which gives you an easier time winning on the rounds that you do intend to win. So they're a little bit nuanced in terms of when you play them and how you play them. But, you know, you can play these cards if you're very far ahead in a round, for example, or on the second round if you've already won the first round. There's a lot of options in how you play these cards. Now, Frightener, I believe, is actually getting changed. Currently, it moves adjacent units to random rows on the same side. Now, I believe you can use it, with the next patch, that is, to move cards to the same row as it. So you can use it to kind of stack units in weather, as well as playing the Frightener. So there are synergies with the effects as well. And obviously, you get your card draw there. Then we have Nilfgaard and Cantarella. Here she is. She's interesting in that you get to choose which card you draw. So you draw a card, and then if you don't want it, you have to put it at the bottom of your deck. So you basically are very unlikely to see it again, and then you get to draw another. So you get the choice of a card that you've seen versus a card that you haven't seen. And she's a spy, obviously, so she's got some Nilfgaard spy synergies as well. Then we've got the Northern Realms, and Northern Realms has Thaler. Thaler, you can see, is 11 strength, but he allows you to draw 2 cards, including golds, keep one and shuffle the other back. So the other one gets shuffled back, which means you're likely to see it again, and you get a choice of 2. So you get to see both. So while, you know, Cantarella, you don't get the choice, but she has spy synergies because of being in Nilfgaard. Thaler, you get the choice. So again, you know, a nice option. Then we have Scoia'tael, and Scoia'tael has Yavin. Yavin is 12 strength. Deploy, draw a unit and a special card, including golds, keep one and shuffle the others back. And the thing is with here, so you're getting a choice of a unit and a special card. So you know that you'll get a special card if you really need one, and you know that you get a unit if you really need one. So I think that's why it justifies the slightly higher cost of this spy. And yeah, like I say, these are really kind of useful cards to have if you're really focused on one specific faction. Because, like I said, the mages and the spies, you know, they fit really nicely in that faction. And that's 2 silver slots, you know, used up by cards that I think are really worthwhile and fit into any deck. Then we have Ulderic here. I actually have animated Ulderic. Deploy, draw 2 cards from your deck, including one, keep one and discard the other. So you keep one and you throw the other one away. But again, you have discard synergies in Skellige, so, you know, discarding cards isn't necessarily a bad thing. So yeah, those are the spies, and I just wanted to quickly mention those as opposed to, you know, the cards I'm going to recommend, just because I think, you know, it's worth mentioning because they're good in every faction, so they are worth crafting, but I should recommend them on their own. Anyway, moving on to our neutral pool we have here, I want to start off my recommendation with Dimeritium Bomb. So Dimeritium Bomb is a bit more of a tech card. You demote and reset 3 adjacent units. But what's important about this is that demote means that you can turn gold cards into silver cards, so you can remove their ability to be silver, to be gold, which makes them targetable, which can be really useful. And you also reset 3 adjacent cards, which means you can actually use Dimeritium Bomb to take boosted cards down to their original level. And boosting is obviously a very common strategy in Gwent. And it does 3, so if they have 2 cards that are very strong adjacent, which may often happen, you know, you can definitely get multiple targets out of it and lots of value. So this is a card that I really like as a tech card, and I think it just works against a lot of like current decks. For example, I know a lot of people are just frustrated with Tibor. This will actually, you know, remove his gold hood and put him down to 10 points rather than 15, for example. Against dwarves, it's really good. It's just a generally nice silver card, and again, one that you can fit into any deck. And when I think you're starting off by crafting cards, I do think it's important to craft cards that fit into any deck. So next up, we have Roach. Roach is a 5 strength silver card. Summon this unit on a random row whenever you play a gold card, excluding leaders. So Roach will get pulled out of your deck whenever you play a gold card. So basically, she's a card that you'll mulligan away, and then when you play a gold card, you pull Roach out of your deck, which thins your deck, which is useful. And on top of thinning your deck, actually what also happens is you gain 5 points on any gold card that you play. So you're gaining 5 extra points. Oh my god, I was actually meaning to make the animated version of her because it's hilarious. She just kind of glitches into everything. You'll see her in the sky in a second. But yeah, it's a really interesting card to play, and there are some ways, for example, you can get her from your graveyard back into your deck. In Northern Realms, for example, you can shuffle her back in, so you can get extra value out of her. But basically having 5 extra points and some deck thinning on a silver card is really useful in a lot of cases. Being able to, you know, thin your deck and make your draw more consistent is nice. Having those 5 extra points is nice. And it's a good card that can fit into a lot of decks, which is why I think this is one that is definitely worth crafting. So last but not least, we have what I would probably say is the strongest neutral silver in the game. And that is actually Skellige Storm, so it's a weather effect. And whilst Drought and Ragnarok are getting nerfed, so they're not doing as much strength, Skellige Storm isn't getting nerfed. Skellige Storm, turn start, damage the units at the end of the row by 3, 2, and 1. So this is a weather effect that you apply to a row, and at the start, it damages units. Currently, it damages units on the far end. The far end of the row is the right-hand side by 3, and then the one next to it by 2, and the one next to it by 1. I believe in the next patch, this is actually getting changed, so it damages from left to right rather than from right to left. So just keep that in mind. But effectively, what you can get here is 6 damage per turn on a single row. And often, you know, opponents do stack cards on a row, and if they can't clear the Skellige Storm, it deals a lot of damage. And with some cards that resurrect weather effects, for example, you can actually play Skellige Storm multiple times. So use it to bait out their clear skies and then play it again. Or if you're playing the mages, you can use the mages weather effect to bait out their clear skies and then play Skellige Storm. Like, there's a lot of different ways that this can kind of be applied to games. And generally, I think, you know, I'm often seeing way more than 6 points from it, and it really can be a round winner in and of itself if your opponent can't remove it. So like I say, I think Skellige Storm is really good. And you know, if they don't happen, or if they do happen to remove it, even if you hit a row only once, if that row has got 3 units on it, you're getting those 6 points. So you're getting 6 points from it straight away if you can hit a row with 3 units. The one thing to be aware of is obviously this doesn't hit gold cards, but gold cards will take up a slot. So if there's a gold card on the end of the row, that will basically be absorbing the damage. So that will not be taking the 3 damage. However, with Dimeritium Bomb, you could always demote that target so that it does take damage. So you can see there's also some synergies with these cards I'm recommending for you. Now, monsters is a tricky one because it turns out I don't want to recommend 1 card, I want to recommend 3. Because I actually think that crones are a really valuable craft if you have monsters. I definitely think if you're crafting early, maybe try and find one in a pack before you invest in these, because obviously it's 600 scrap. But Crone Brewist is an 8 strength card. Then she summons Wispus and Weavus. Similarly, there's Weavus who summons Brewis and Wispus, and there is Wispus who summons Brewis and Weavus. Anyway, the point being, what you want to do is mulligan your crones, and then on a round, you can play one crone, and it'll pull the other 2 from your deck. Again, we got deck thinning going on, and it gives you 20 points in one card, so it's a big tempo play. And this can, in and of itself, be a round winner in monsters. Like, often I'll be like, right, I'm going to win one round with crones, and I'm going to win one round with weather, or one round with crones, and one round with, you know, something else. And that's the kind of idea behind them. They're very, very effective, and you see these a lot, and often sometimes because of the fact you can mulligan in the second and third round, if you draw poorly in the first round and end up with 2 crones, that's fine. Don't play them in the first round. Just hold off to the second round, mulligan one of them, and play them in that round. So, you know, you're never likely to end up with 2 in your hand if you're smart with how you mulligan and stuff. And I do think these are, in my opinion, the best silver monster card to craft. I'll give a shout out to Katakan. I think Katakan is also very good. Being able to consume a unit from either graveyard is good for graveyard removal. It has consume synergies, and often, you know, opponents have very strong cards in their graveyard, which means that Katakan can get a lot more than the 4 points stated on this card. But I want to go for crones over Katakan first. Although, like I say, if you've only got enough to make 1, then maybe Katakan's where you want to go. Anyhow, moving on to Nilfgaard. Here we have Nilfgaard, and the card I'm going to go for, Nilfgaard does have a lot of good silvers, but the one I'm going to recommend to you guys is Orcs. Orcs toggles 2 units lock if enemies also damage them by 1. So this is a locking effect like Cleaver, who is a free silver card. But instead of only hitting 1 target, you actually hit 2. And actually every faction does have its own specific faction specific card that you can use to lock. For example, Feed here, toggle a unit's lock and damage its power by half. And these locks themselves are good. They're typically better than Cleaver. But the thing is, like, I think, for example, in this situation, crones are better than having a lock. But because with Nilfgaard, Orcs allows you to lock 2 units, it can be massive. The ability to do a couple damage, get 4 points on the board, and lock 2 units, I think is really, really useful. And I think situationally, you know, you may only use them to lock 1, but when you do lock 2 units, it can be, you know, a really big swing. And I really, really like Orcs. I think he's really worthwhile having in any deck. I mean, there are a lot of good silver cards in Nilfgaard. Definitely, you know, go through them and check them out. But I think, you know, some of them are more situational than others. And Orcs, like I say, fits into any deck, which is why I would highly recommend him as a craft. So Northern Realm epics are kind of like Northern Realm legendaries in that I think they're somewhat lacking. And I had a really hard time in kind of deciding what it was that I wanted to suggest to you guys in terms of what to craft. And I think the thing is, I think actually what's worth crafting, I haven't got her yet, but what's maybe worth crafting for Northern Realms if you focus on them. I haven't really been focused on them too much because I don't feel that they're that competitive beyond the Reaver Hunter deck, which I do have a guide for, is maybe Margarita, because she resets a unit and toggles its lock. So she has basically a single target Dimeritian Dimeritian Bomb and a lock. So you can use her for a reset or for a lock, or situationally for both. So she's kind of versatile in that respect, along with the 4 points that you have. She doesn't demote units, so you can't use her on a gold card, but you can lock or unlock. And you can lock or unlock a silver or bronze card. The only problem is obviously if you target your own unit, you are going to reset it. So if they've locked a very high point unit on your row, if you want to unlock it, you're going to have to reset it. So that's kind of counterintuitive. And this is what I mean about Northern Realms. They always have a little bit of a but attached. So maybe, you know, Margarita, again, she's still slightly situational. She doesn't necessarily fit in every deck. Similarly, I like reinforcements. Play a unit from your deck, then shuffle the others back. So it's target draw for units, which is really nice in a lot of decks. But, you know, again, it's more situational because it basically means that you play it in a deck where you have to find a specific unit. And ultimately, not every deck you have to find a specific unit. So not every deck needs reinforcements. And I don't know, I feel like Northern Realms is a really hard one in terms of what to recommend to people. Odrin I like. Turn start, move to a random row and boost units on it by 1. So you can play him out and then each turn he's going to move and boost. And I think that's generally a good effect. But obviously he does better if you have your units spread across different rows and you don't stack rows. So that's the other thing to be aware of. But like I say, I have a hard time kind of deciding on what to recommend with Northern Realms because I do feel like their power is a bit lacking. Honestly, the best one is probably Thaler, who I've already recommended to you guys with the disloyal units. Scoia'tael, we kind of have a similar story here, in that a lot of their special cards are part of synergies. So, for example, Nature's Gift is obviously part of a special card synergy. So it's a good card, but it's very kind of deck specific. Barclay, again, he's like for dwarves. Then, you know, we have Milena, move it to a random row on another unit on this side of this row. Move a random unit on another row on this side to this row. So at the turn, she starts to move units onto your row. So she's starting to row stack for you. But row stacking isn't very good against weather. And like situationally, when would you need to row stack? That is the kind of the question you have to ask. Similarly, we have Moraine. So she's an ambush card, which means she plays face down, and then she's springed when a unit appears on the opponent's side and damages it by 5. So this is maybe, you know, this is a worthwhile one. It could fit into any deck. But bear in mind that ambush cards can get locked, and that doesn't trigger. So she's potentially 10 strength, but maybe 5. You know, it depends on obviously what they play. And if she doesn't spring at all, then, you know, if they don't play any units, then you don't get any value out of her. So again, I feel like in Scoia'tael, it's a bit more situational. And maybe the one that I would recommend to you guys is probably Yarpen Zergen, because he's resilient, which means when you play him, he's 7 points on the board, and he's resilient, which means he'll stay on the board till the next turn. However, he does have dwarf synergy, so ideally you want to play him in a dwarf deck. Whenever a dwarf ally, including golds, is played, boost self by 1. But the fact that he's just 7 strength and resilient means that I think he's useful in any deck, but he's best in dwarf decks. So again, this is another faction where it's kind of hard to recommend one card to craft, but maybe I would go Moraine or Yarpen. Those are my recommendations. So last but not least, we have Skellige, and Skellige is a super easy recommendation to make. This is the easiest recommendation, and the card that I will say that you should make is Sigurdrifa. Deploy, resurrect a unit from your graveyard. So 3 strength, and when you play her, you get to resurrect. And resurrecting is lovely. It's really, really good in Skellige. And she can actually resurrect silver cards, so then you can use her to replay one of your silver cards should you wish to. She also has, you know, 3 strength, which means she's a little bit more resilient than the Priestess of Reyes. I know they had a problem interaction with stuff like the bear, for example, although I believe that interaction is getting changed. But Sigurdrifa is just a fantastic card. Having a resurrect, nice. Being able to target, you know, silvers should you want to resurrect one, nice. And then having the option of bronze is really good. And again, she's just a great card. And also you can decoy her. Decoy is a free starter card, so you can play her twice with decoy, for example, and basically resurrect 2 things. So like I said, this is the one I would go for. But I want to give a special mention to our good friend Nilfgaard down here. Whenever this unit is discarded or destroyed, resurrect it and weaken it by 3. So this is an 8 strength unit, but when it is moved to the graveyard, it actually gets resurrected and gains strength. So it can go to an 8, then down to a 5, then down to a 2, for example. But there's a lot of options in Skellige to strengthen units, so you can actually strengthen up your Nilfgaard, and he's very hard to remove. And if your opponent does remove him, you know, he just loses 3 strength and comes back. So he's got a lot of kind of utility in Skellige. He works with discard strategies, he works with strengthening strategies. He's just a very interesting card, and I really like him. I think he's a good card and probably worth a craft in my opinion. But yeah, guys, that's it. Those are my recommendations for the silver cards that you should craft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know especially what you think about Northern Realms and Scoia'tael, because again, those ones I feel like it's harder to recommend. If you agree or disagree with anything that I've said, feel free to, you know, say in the comments, say why. I'm happy to have a discussion about this. And beyond that, thanks for watching. Have a fantastic day. If you'd like to, you can follow me on Twitter @Jaggerus. I'm on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jaggerus. I apologize for the quieter content schedule this week. I'm actually away traveling this week, so I haven't been able to make as much content as I would like, or cover the patch straight away. But we'll definitely get onto that when I get back next week. But yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!